Hello, I'm back. I'm real. Mark is real. We all know this by now. I wanted to jump on that bandwagon, my brave knights, princes, and princesses, and, see what would happen. And the reaction's was pretty funny. People were like, "What? My life's a lie." It's okay. So, I'm back after a bit, just sitting back and watching the chaos happen because it was funny. Um, So, today I actually have something for you all. I have two movie reviews for you. First, I have Samson. Um, it, it's over here. And then I also have another movie we're going to be reviewing, Skyfire, which is over here. Yep, two movies. We're going to start with Skyfire because we're going to do it in the order that I watched these movies in, so let me make sure I do this right. Okay. So Skyfire is a disaster movie. And there was only one actor in this movie I recognized, and I'm going to show you who it was. I think we all will recognize him because he's been in some movies that I've noticed. The guy in front of all of the crowd, that is Lucius Malfoy from the Harry Potter series. He also played Zhao in the Avatar Last Airbender. I don't know if anyone knows that, but I know it. He also played in The Patriot. Yeah, he's in this. He actually has the most, to me, funniest death scene. And I'm sorry it's funny, but it was funny to me. So, take as what you will with that. It starts with a mother and daughter. And they're just working away at stuff. And the volcano erupts. And they have to run, so they run. They're running, they're booking it. Their father is panicking. He's asking them where they are, and they're like, we're going to Parrot Rock. It's this rock. It's called Parrot Rock. And they make it there. The mother and daughter make it there, and the mother puts her daughter on a truck that passes by, and the daughter manages to get away. The father is going after the mother, and the mother doesn't make it. What happens is the father's truck flips upside down, and he ends up just watching the mother die. And there's also a lot of plot armor in this movie, like a lot of plot armor. Some of it is just downright hilarious. But this movie was fun to watch. There are two other people in this movie. There are other people in this movie, like two people who become a couple. The Lucius guy plays the person who basically built this theme park on the volcano. And the reason why he built it was he wanted to his character is trying to get out of debt with his wife. Because apparently they went into debt building this place. So, there's that. And so, they're giving this tour. By this time, the daughter is grown up. And she's studying the volcano. And her dad is giving lessons about the volcano, and he just is all upset and angry. And the daughter, it's a typical daughter-father drama thing. And so the volcanoes basically starts rumbling. They start trying to rescue people to get people off the island. A lot of chaos happens, and it's just fun watching all the fireballs and everything fall. It's kind of fun. I had fun. But the plot armor, like I said, the plot armor in this movie was just ridiculous in some places. When you watch the movie, you'll know. You'll know what I mean. But the way that the millionaire guy dies, I'm sorry. Like, I thought it was funny. is basically he gets this kid onto a boat, and he gives her his watch. Now, the funny thing about the watch is that it's his father's watch, and his father gave it to him and asked him to hold it up to his. Okay, this banner's in the way. Just shrink it more. The kid, when he held it up to his ear, he asked him, what does it sound like? And he said, money. When the kid holds it up to her ear and he asks, what does it sound like? She says, a heartbeat. It's kind of touching. And he's just standing there the whole time, watching her leave. And I'm like, if I was you, I'd just turn around and go. But no, he just stands there and keeps standing there and keeps standing there and keeps standing there as the boat goes. And then a fireball comes down and just goes, whoop, and he's gone. I'm sorry, I thought it was funny. What else? The movie is good. I think the main character and her father are the two people who have the most plot armor out of the bunch, and possibly the two lovers that are in this movie, because they have a lot of plot armor. But it is a good disaster film for what it is. It's fun. It's a fun watch. Do I think you should go watch it? You should. Now we're going to move on to our next movie, and that is Samson. And this is where it gets interesting, because Samson is based off of, the biblical tale of Samson. A real-life account about a real person who did actual real things. To explain this movie, to me, if I was to compare this movie, I would say this is basically like Braveheart and Hercules came together, got a little washed down, but kept some of the violence, just some. You did that, you get this movie. Samson's the only just to say off the bat, my favorite part in this whole entire movie was when Samson was taking on the bad guy, an army of bad guys. It was cool, but it was also stupid. But I'll get to that. So, for those of you that don't know the story of Samson, I'll just go over it. Samson basically was chosen to be a judge of Israel, and you kind of get the idea that he's a passionate guy, that he has a weakness for women, and he was very strong. His gift was super strength, basically, was supernatural strength. He was able to do he was able to kill a lion easily, and lions aren't easily killable. And he was able to. He also had this riddle that no one could solve, but we'll get to that. So what this movie tries to do is it tries to fill in the gaps that what we may or may not know about Samson, and what this movie portrays Samson as is this, arrogant, gets into trouble kind of guy, which I guess I could see it. I was like, okay. So that's what he was. That's what they were portraying him as in this movie. But like I said, my favorite part of the whole entire thing was when he took on this army of bad guys, of soldiers. The sad thing is that as Samson's is duking out with these guys, they're not running in at him. If you watch the scene, and you'll see it, basically what happens is they're actually walking. They're pushing each other and walking toward him. And then there's like this cut of them running. And I'm like, shouldn't it be the other way around, where first they're running toward him and beating him up, trying to beat him up and kill him, and then as their morale drops, they start walking slowly toward him? That would have made more sense to me. The other thing, now where this movie trails off of the actual historical account is when Samson marries the Philistine woman in this movie, because the Philistines, of course, took over Israel, and they're in bondage to him, and they want to, get out of it, and Samson's supposed to get them out of it, but he doesn't want to do it because he keeps saying he's not ready to be a judge yet. in this movie. There's also a king and a prince. The prince is kind of power hungry, is just tired of being scared of everything. He's a brat. As it seems, and I'm not saying that this happens in every movie, but it seems that a lot of movies portray royalty in a sort of bratish sort of way. And I'm like, the only movies I've seen where the royalty isn't bratty is, of course, Lord of the Rings. That kind of royalty is awesome. Or, well, Chronicles of Narnia is debatable. I'm not sure if there was any others. But, basically, so one other thing is that this movie adds a few more riddles, which is fine, I guess, because I guess it makes, when you think about it, since Samson had a riddle, I mean, what's to say that they didn't all do riddles, I guess. But where this movie kind of deviates off of the actual historical account is his wife actually hounded him for a week to get the answer to the riddle, and so he tells her the answer, and the bet was, of course, that they had to give some like very expensive clothing to him, or he had to give expensive clothing to them. And so he tells her, she tells them, then they tell him the answer to the riddle, and he's like, well, you wouldn't have known the answer if you hadn't constrained my wife. And basically they threatened her life. And then, like, the point where this movie deviates off of what actually happens is right here, because then Samson, in the historical account, actually leaves in a rage and sets their fields on fire, which this movie shows him doing. Because back in those times, wheat meant money. Like, your fields meant money. Like, how much fields you had meant how rich you were. Like, all the oxen and all the, animals you had was your money. Was how much you had. Basically, if you had a lot of that, you meant you were pretty rich. But Samson was basically burning their money away. And he did this in a rage. The actor didn't seem very angry at first when he did this. He just does it. And then he seems angry. It's like, you should have been angry with the entire thing, buddy. But yeah, so he sets the fields on fire, and here is where the account kind of deviates from what actually happened. What the movie shows is they throw her off the wall, along with his father, right? Right? Is that what happens? Yeah, I think so. No, I mean, I feel like I forgot something. Yeah, I did, but we'll get there. I know what I forgot now. But anyway, they throw her off. We'll just say they throw her off because her father, along with her father, her father. And he's angry, obviously. Now, what actually happens is Samson left and, of course, set the wheat fields on fire. What actually happens is he comes back to his father, knocks on the door, as it were, and is like, I'm here to see my wife. Where is she? And her father's like, we thought you were angry with her, so we gave her to someone else? You want my younger daughter instead? I mean, you want this younger person instead? And Samson's like, no, I want my wife. And we don't really know what happened after that. So then Samson wanders off, and the Philistines basically threaten the village of Samson's village. And so Samson's brother goes to find his brother, and he finds him and says, we need to, stand up for ourselves and stuff. What actually happens, again, is the Philistines are looking for Samson. The Israelites actually capitulate and say, we'll help you find him. And when they find Samson, they say, what have you done? You've stirred these people up, and we don't want you to do that, basically. They were okay with the Philistines being ruling over them, which wasn't good. That's what really happened. And so, basically, now in the movie, Samson's like, "You're right. We are going to stand up to them." And by standing up to them, he means he's going to turn. He turns himself in to them. What actually happens in the actual historical account is that he goes with them. He doesn't. He just goes with them. He doesn't argue. I mean, he's like, one day you're gonna be found. You guys will regret this, basically. But he goes with them anyway, something like that. I don't exactly remember what exactly he said. And then, of course, Samson's father is murdered before his eyes, and Samson basically kills everybody in that area. And it's a pretty fun scene to watch. It is probably the coolest scene in this entire movie. It's pretty epic. I enjoyed myself. I enjoyed it. And then, after this, he becomes a judge. Because the prince was here too, in the mix of this. The prince actually ends up getting a scar on this eye here from Samson. And so the prince survives somehow, barely. And he goes back to his father, and he's like, this guy is supernatural, and seems like he actually is, like, has God in him. And the king is like, isn't phased. He's like, we have, Dagon, and like, so what? The king is kind of interesting in this movie because he isn't exactly tyrannical. He's trying to keep things lenient, as it were. He doesn't really want to do much. He doesn't want to necessarily do anything about Samson. I guess you could say he admired him, which is why he tells Samson later to buzz off, basically. And Samson does. And then we get to our favorite part that everyone remembers Samson for. And that is when Samson meets Delilah. Now, I don't think the movie necessarily says what Delilah is. She was in the historical account, she was basically what did they call it? A harlot. Or in today's terms, she would be, a prostitute. And so she was also a Philistine, which is interesting. Also, one thing that's not mentioned in the movie, but it's mentioned in the historical account, is that God's hand was moving, causing these events to happen, because they are the events that were going to happen. And of course, the Israelites didn't know this, but I'm sure if they knew, they would have probably relaxed a little bit about the whole Philistine woman thing, because I'm not going to explain that, actually. Actually, I will explain a little bit. So, basically, the Israelites weren't allowed to marry anyone outside the camp. Like, they weren't allowed to marry the Philistines or anyone else. They were only allowed to marry those within their tribes, basically. Because otherwise, bad things happen. A lot of bad things. As does happen. But anyway, so Samson, meets Delilah. Now, again, the story kind of gets finical here, because Delilah seems like she's falling for Samson, even though in the actual account, Delilah is just trying to find out what Samson's weakness is, so the Israelites can, beat him finally and take him away. And one part that actually happens is that I also liked, sort of, because it actually reminded me of something that actually happens in another movie, is he ends up being cornered at the door of this town, and he pushes it open with two hands. And it reminded me of another movie, of Princess Mononoke, where basically this guy was carrying Mononoke on his shoulder, the main character, and he pushes open the door with one arm. Which is why I'm like, why couldn't have Samson done it with one arm? Like, it would have been cooler. I mean, 2 arms is cool. He drags the whole freaking door away, but I'm like, I think it would have been cooler if he did it with one arm. It's just me. What else? So yeah, basically Delilah keeps trying to find out Samson's weakness. Like, Samson says, if you tie me with fresh rope, I'll be as a man. And eventually, after she keeps pestering him over and over and over to tell her, because the Philistines keep threatening her life and blah. And she just wants to know. He finally tells her that if she cuts his hair, because another thing that Samson was a Nazarite, and Nazarites are supposed to keep their hair at a certain level and aren't allowed to cut it. Like, they have to keep it a certain length. I don't remember how, but basically he tells her that. She puts him to sleep. She cuts his hair, and as it says, the Spirit of God left him. Because he believed that when he woke up, he thought he could take them on himself. Because he wasn't believing in the cause of the strength, which was that God was giving him the strength through his faith. But he thought that this strength was his and his alone. That he could just summon it and it could do whatever. Basically, that God answered to him. Something like that. So Samson ends up being overpowered. He ends up having his eyes gouged out. Another thing that happened in this movie that I appreciated was that there was a running theme through this movie of Samson doing what was right in front of his eyes, was right in front of him. And as Samson says in the prison later, he did what was right in his own eyes, which is true. And I was like, wow. Okay, that's good. That was a very accurate line. I could see Samson saying that. Now, the only thing, the inaccuracy was that Samson's brother was also in the prison. They captured his brother too. Delilah shows up after getting the payment that she earned from finally finding out Samson's weakness. I forget how much she got. I think it was enough. Like, it was silver, a certain amount of silver. I think it was probably the same amount as a slave. I don't remember. But she got her silver, and she wasn't happy. So she tries to get Samson out. Samson says no, he deserves to be here. And so she takes out his brother instead. The prince at this point wants Samson's power because he believes in the power, but not the... He wants the power, but not the being behind the power, basically. You know? And so that's what happens. Is he doesn't get an answer. And then of course his father wants Samson's head, and the prince finally gets tired of his father ordering him around. Prince kills his father, becomes the king. They throw a party, and this is where we all remember Samson from, because we remember the story of him basically being dragged out, put between 2 pillars. Everyone's making fun of him, and he finally just prays that God will help him avenge himself for his 2 eyes. And he pushes the 2 pillars, and basically the entire place comes down and basically takes out all of the royalties and everybody else, every other Philistine in the room. So basically the whole infrastructure of the Philistine hierarchy and whatever is gone. I don't know if I'm missing anything. But yeah, that's the movie. And like, it's alright. It's fun, but there are some inaccuracies and this is why I don't like watching these films, because I get upset. I actually watched the Noah movie when it came out, and I couldn't even make it through like half of it before I stopped and I was like, okay, I can't. Yeah. But anyway, that's Samson and Skyfire. I hope you all enjoy this review. I am still alive. I'm here. I just really wanted to have something to show you all. But you should get some. This is good stuff. It's limited time only. Mountain Dew, you should sponsor me because I love your drinks. Although, how would I get paid for it? That's a good question. Yeah. So that's it. I don't think I've got anything else. So there'll be game videos. Until then, leave a like and subscribe because there's always room for more. And have a good day. Have a great day. Have an awesome week. Go out there and just be awesome. Because when you come back here, I'll be here to welcome you all back at a place where you all can just sit back, relax, and just watch whatever I do, because it's a lot of work. It is. And I'm not 8-bit Ryan. I don't do fancy edits. I'm not Jacksepticeye where I'm crazy and loud. It seems like there is an appeal to that. I'm just a guy wanting to do something. That's all. And if you guys like that, then stick around. Because it's going to be a journey. The goal for this from here to March is to reach 60,000 subscribers. That is your goal. Our goal. So, till then, we'll see you all later. Goodbye, everyone.